Hello, good evening class. First, some general housekeeping. Please put your cameras on and your mic on mute. If you have a question, raise your hand in the Teams chat, or if you wish to ask a question anonymously, please use the Q&A function and the admin will go through the questions at the end. Okay, alright, let's get started. Oh my god, then you know what? Pandit told me things he's never told anyone before, yeah. Yeah, so you know what? He had a threesome with that girl and one other girl. Then, in the middle of that, his mother. Shweta, please, we are all tired of hearing the same story about Pandit's love life. Please put her on mute. Admin, somebody please put her on mute. Okay, alright, thank you. Okay, now let's get started. Okay, everybody, settle down. Today we will be talking about the science of intergenerational life sharing as seen in Indian families. As many of you may have experienced, for Indian people, they are not perceived to truly be adults until well after they have reached adulthood. Perhaps not until marriage, perhaps not even after marriage. This varies from family to family. But for the purposes of this lecture, we will be using the average age of perceived adulthood. Write this down, this will be in the mid-semester test. The average age of perceived adulthood is 45. Okay, slide 1 please. So in this graph here, we see that the normal age of perceived adulthood in most countries is the legal age, which is 18 years old. Okay. In some countries around the world, we see that parents encourage their children to reach perceived adulthood earlier than the legal age of perceived adulthood. For example, they may encourage them to do basic tasks themselves, like pack their lunch for school, or I see you laughing, but this happens around the world, or make their beds in the morning, even to the extent of making some bigger life decisions for themselves, like choosing who to date, what to study in school and university, what to do for a job, who to marry. Children are encouraged to evaluate their own values against the inherited values taught to them by their parents, because the two can be different. However, what we see in South Asian culture is that the perceived age of adulthood is later than the legal age of adulthood. There is a delayed perceived adulthood because parents still perceive their children to be children until they have met a set criteria in their parents' minds. Okay, slide 2 please. Alright, on this slide we will see some of the factors by which South Asian parents determine if their children have met the criteria for them to be perceived as adults. Number 1. Has my child completed a good degree by which they will be able to earn a decent salary to support themselves? Number 2. Does my child have a good job and is leading a good life based on the values that we have enforced on them? Number 3. Is my child married and preparing to have children so that I can now be a grandparent? Now, if you look closely, you will see that nowhere on this slide is the parent considering, has my child reached the age of 18 and become a self-actualized person? Do they understand their sense of self? This is because the concept of self-actualization is missing from South Asian culture at large. Does anyone know why? No? Okay. Because the parent defines the sense of self for the child. Okay, slide 3 please. Now we will get to the interesting part of the science of intergenerational life sharing, or as some call it, intergenerational theft. As the general lifespan has increased over time, so has the amount of intergenerational life sharing or theft. In this example, we will see a typical example of intergenerational theft and the missing years as we have come to define it. As the general lifespan has increased over time, so has the amount of intergenerational life sharing or theft. And we have this situation now where South Asian children are seeking to reclaim these missing years. So, the grandparent here has a typical lifespan of about 65 years. So if they had their child at 25 and then went on to cease having much influence by the age of 60, they have actually life shared approximately 17 years of their child's life. Okay, I can see some blank looks. Let me explain. So Kavita has a child at 25 years. Okay. She then raises her son, let's call him Gautam, to adulthood, and after the age of 18 continues to exert her influence over him until she is about 60 years old, after which she either thinks, okay, Gautam is now perceived to be an adult, or she's too old and decrepit to really have much of an influence over him. Alright. She then dies at the age of, say, 65. So from the age of 18 till 60, when Gautam is 18 until when Kavita is 60, there's about 17 years there where Kavita continues to exert her influence over Gautam's life, influencing who he marries, what kind of job he has, what he studies, how he leads his life in general, to add to her reputation as a parent in her community with her peers. So those are 17 missing years of Gautam's life. So at the age of 35, where Gautam has effectively been persuaded to marry the woman of his mother's choice, work in the profession that she wants him to be in, and even the spacing of his children potentially to satisfy her requirements as a grandmother, at the age of 35, he has effectively been stolen of 17 years of his life.